our VFF Meet the Candidates evening. I'm going to give you a little korero or statement around Voices for Freedom and our vision and then our mission. After that, I will introduce our speakers. We're going to get our speakers to share their what they want to share for us. And then afterwards we have got a selection of questions, and not to trip anybody out, we have actually emailed each of the candidates our questions and what we would specifically like answered. Obviously you may have some other questions and they can come after that as well, but some of those questions may be answered during the introductions from each of the candidates. Okay, so where we're headed, the vision for Voices for Freedom, is that we exist to preserve the inalienable rights of every New Zealander to live freely and make their own decisions without interference, intrusion or coercion from government or special interests. We stand for core Kiwi values, personal liability and restrained government, and for a sovereign New Zealand free from the control of power-hungry global organisations. Our vision is to have a VFF local group presence in every neighbourhood, and that Voices for Freedom be in a position to influence the direction New Zealand takes in areas such as economics, culture, politics and more. And there are very many groups in New Zealand as we speak, and more are being created. Ruapehu have just started a group over there. And we have, I don't know what number we're up to, but it's well over 100,000 VFF people. We send out a monthly email, and our monthly email goes out to nearly 600 people in Taupo. So we've advertised all of you already to 600 people. Okay, and tonight as well. Right, how are we going to get there? So our mission, long-lasting freedom and our Kiwi way of life depends on all New Zealanders being able to stand their ground against unjust or illegal mandates, laws and threats. Our efforts are therefore focused on empowering individuals to peacefully defend their position of personal sovereignty through our campaigns, education resources and national networks of local groups. We work to re-establish resilience back into local communities, understanding that the tyrants of today will wither away when society regains its strength, integrity and sense of responsibility. Parliamentary reform will come as a result of empowering, organising and emboldening more Kiwis to stand their ground when challenged by government injustice. So, it's just standing in our own power and being free, sovereign people is what we are aiming for. Okay. I'd like to introduce our candidates tonight. We are lucky enough to have two mayoral candidates present with us tonight. One is Zane Kosen and the other one is John Fenel. We've also got three local council members. Well, Anne Tweedy is for the local Taupo ward. Rebecca Stafford, thankfully, yay, because I'm in the rural area, Taupo East Rural Ward representative. And Hope Woodward is the Mangakino, thank you, I forget that, but Pokane Ward Council. So representing the lovely people in Mangakino who have different needs to what local Taupo people have. Okay, so we're going to start with, Zane, are you okay to be the first person to start, or would you like to nominate John to start first?
John, go first.
Okay, because he looks a bit ready.
Who's starting? Me or
You can start, yes.
More than happy to. Because
And please remain seated if you feel the urge. If you feel the urge to stand, we're universal design for learning here. If you want to stand, you do. If you don't, you don't.
Because my introduction will be very short.
Okay, awesome.
Because most of the things that you've got in your question paper cover off
Yes.
what I stand for. So,
And we will ask those later, but I just wanted to give you a chance.
so rather than elaborate on it up front, it's quite good what you've done. So I'm John Fenel. I've been in the district a little bit over 50 years. I'm actually a farmer's son, learned to fly in the Boy Scouts, and through a bit of a journey I ended up in Taupo. My claim to fame is setting up all the rescue helicopters in the central North Island. I stand for, the main driver for me is cost control at the council. If you think it's bad now, have a look at the 10-year plan. It's only going to go one way, and that's their predictions. And they always always overrun them. So, you know, it's brace yourself. And one of the things I've enjoyed is is getting out and meeting people, and the stories I hear, particularly of young mothers with children living on their own. They are struggling. One of them said to me, I've got to decide whether I pay the rates and cut back on what I feed the children, or feed the children and not pay the rates. So I said, well, there are a few options. You can apply for some relief, but I don't know quite how that works. I think at the end of the day that at COVID we tried that and they were very accommodating, but they wanted their money at the end of the day. So the other big issue I stand for, and I'm pretty sure Zane will be identical to me, is transparency. You know, there's an acute shortage of it. And Taupo recent, and we saw that highlighted by the JMA, and which one of us two get through there are going to be driving that. I don't know if there'll be any other contenders will be between me and him.
Awesome positivity.
And equality, equal opportunities is what I stand for. And as far as I know, I'm the only person standing in the Taupo district that's come out and said with Maori wards, I'm voting no. But whatever the referendum results are is what I'll run with. I've got a fair bit of flack over it, but my dad told me if you believe in something, stand up for it. And that's what I'm doing. I can't understand why Maori people would want to lock themselves into just 2 representatives when if they're on the general ward, they potentially could have 10 or more in there. And it's driving a lot of heat in the debate of Maori versus Pākehā. And this wasn't brought on by us, this was brought on by central government. And people can throw darts at me. I'm only one vote. And so it's the will of the public that are going to decide on the day. So, but that's it from me. I'm quite keen to hear what the rest say and happy to answer any questions as we go through.
Awesome, thank you, John. Zane.
Who else will stand up?
You don't have to, it's up to you. It's your show.
Hi everyone, my name is Zane. I reside on the eastern shores of Lake Taupo. I'm a businessman. I've been part of this district all my life. When we think about Taupo, or the Taupo district, our waterways connect us, they connect our communities. So too should our leadership. I'm about bringing all voices to the table. No voice should have greater or lesser value than the next. Everyone should have an equal say. Council needs to be reorientated back to its core services. We need to rein in waste, get our rates under control, and run it like the business that it is. I don't want to be talking, I want to be bringing real results to people. We've had enough of that for the last 12 years. I have a 100-day plan, which I've been working on since the start of the year. It's a living document, and it speaks to how we can correct a whole bunch of issues within our district. It's available online. It's a living document because every day that I'm talking to people, I hear things I get great ideas. Just today, I heard something about the vegetation policy and the reserve management policy, things we can change. So every day it's been added to and been updated. Because what good is leadership if leadership doesn't listen? So, this year, you can vote the same to get the same, or you can vote for change and vote for same.
I haven't got anything prepared, so I'm just going to sit here and be a bit more relaxed.
Awesome.
Introduce myself, Hastings born and bred. I've been on council before, the Hastings Council. I was on as a representative for the Carver Ward after a 3-year roading plan that I'd already put through, which went from 10 million to 12, but I showed the council how to budget for it and they listened in those days, so we had that implemented.
I don't believe you.
They listened.
I'm talking rubbish here.
On the roading committee, and then I got trained on it by Dave Fraser, who was the engineer in roading, and he taught me all about how you strip a road, how you build a road, all the Transit New Zealand subsidies that go with it, and then they used to take me out on the road to check the roads as well. I used to go out with Les Glock and check on all the roads, and we'd make notes on what needed doing and feed it all back to council and follow it all up. So I did that for 3 years, and then they put my name forward for council, and I was living in the Kaweka ward, because that's where we're farming, and put my name up. I only put 2 signs up, I didn't do flyers or anything, I just talked to a few people and got in. So I've got a bit of experience at council from that. Not very good as a chairperson, so I'm quite happy for somebody else to be mayor, that's not really my thing. But I am for fairness and rights and the transparency that we don't have, and listening to the arrogance in the current council comments about, can I name him when he's moving, he's not going to standing again. The public don't know what they want, so there's no point asking them, that's what I've heard at a couple of council meetings. What would they know? Last time we asked them to do a referendum on something, they all voted the wrong way, so don't bother asking them. And I just sat there absolutely flabbergasted and thought, whoa, we need change, we need this attitude to change, we need new blood in there. Some of them have been there so long, if they're just complacent and collecting the wages and head nodding. Our office staff seem to do most of the work, most of the decisions, and certainly all the paperwork, and then the people at the front, they go in there and say, right, this is the one from the last meeting, all in favour, aye, all against, right, oh, Duncan, you're going against it again, oh, do you want that recorded? And then away they go, and I've seen a year of this, and I'm like, oh, there's no point sitting at home complaining, and I wasn't really planning on doing this at 65, but I feel I've got children here. My daughter teaches at Hilltop. I've got 4 grandchildren in the area. One granddaughter goes to Hitori School. No, my daughter lives there. No, Matatori School. Sorry, I have trouble remembering the names. And so I've got 4 grandkids. I like them all to grow up and buy their own properties. My children are well set up now, but I want my grandchildren to have a good future as well. So I decided I've got to get off the couch, put my name forward, and put all my accounting and marketing degree and all the things that I can bring to the table forward and try and put them to good use. Looking forward to your questions.
Kia ora, I'm Rebecca Stafford, and I'm standing out at the East Triple Ward just to be close to Debs. It's the only reason I'm doing it. Actually, that's not true. Well, that is true, but it's not the only reason. I actually live over in Nukahau, and I decided to stand for East Rural, partly because some residents out there suggested it, but partly because I did live next door to a dairy farm for 10 years, so I have an understanding of some of the unique rural challenges. Also, when I sort of found out the ward representation and how many seats were available, I was quite shocked to see that last election 2 incumbent councillors walked in unopposed, so partly to give them just a choice in representation. And the feedback I've had about that so far is the residents in the ward I've spoken to so far are just actually thrilled to have some choice around that, and there's possible issues around whether that ward should be disestablished and be merged with the general thing, but that's something to discuss with the residents out there. Is there anyone here from the East Rural ward? Oh, hi. Oh, yeah, I'll see you later. Yeah. So I'm from Wellington originally, did my time in Auckland, was in Woodward down here about 5 years ago, and absolutely love it. An incredibly beautiful place. I have mountains. Most mornings I go and count the mountains and count the lakes just to make sure, just to keep an eye on them. And I've got a very multidisciplinary background, including the police. They counted against me, I mostly hated it. Also in robotic healthcare tech and so on. So I'm one of my superpowers, including clearing blocked U-bends, really innovation and coming up with multidisciplinary solutions to complex multidisciplinary problems. So I feel slightly surprised to find myself in this position, but it was a moment of outrage that prompted me to stand, and I had a lapse of judgment on not enough, and what? And just like $272 million in debt, and climbing now, and the lack of public accountability, and several of you have heard me say this story several times, the nail in the coffin for standing, so to speak, was standing next to, accidentally incognito, at a council public workshop, and the discussion was around whether to consult with the public on a budget blowout, and the mayor said to me, well, so he didn't say to me, he said next to me, didn't realise there was a member of public sitting right next to him, there's no point consulting with them because they don't understand anyway. And yeah, that was the final thing. So I look forward to your questions. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Hope Woodward and I am standing for Mangakino Pōkani Ward. I moved out to Mangakino 4 years ago from Taupo, and I was in Taupo for about 12 years. I went to high school here, and I have a couple of girls. I have 3 girls, and moving out to Mangakino was because Taupo started getting too big. When I went to high school here, we had 1 traffic light, and that's kind of how I like it. I grew up in small villages, and so I just like more of a rural aspect. So moved out to Mangakino, and while I've been out there, I've noticed that there is a lack of representation out there. We have had the same councillor for a few terms now, and although she's had definite struggles that you couldn't even imagine, the representation is not there. So I feel we need better. I have generally been somebody who fights government. I stand up against the government quite a lot in years gone by. Never thought I would be in this position, but like the others, can't just sit at home and do nothing, or the things that we're doing on the outside is just not enough now. So we need to get in and make some change and work together for sure. And the transparency definitely needs to be brought to light. So that's kind of my introduction there.
Thank you. Are you standing in the council at the moment? Or are you all new?
No.
No. All new candidate.
I've been on before.
Yeah.
Okay, Tristan, did you want to, do we want to head straight into questions?
Yeah, we'll get into the questions. So each of the candidates will have 1 minute to answer the questions. I think for the first question, we'll start at Zane and go along, I hope. And then for the second question, we'll start at you and go back. So we'll just, yeah. So one minute to answer the questions. The first one is on rates and spending. Rates are going up year after year, but services are getting worse. It seems more money is being spent on consultation, consultants and strategy documents than on actual delivery. Will you commit to keeping rates rises at or below inflation?
Yes, definitely. Rates need to be hinged to inflation. They're out of control currently. They're running at 3 times the rate of inflation last year, this year. Not sustainable. It'll ease off over the next few years. So when it comes to unpicking and getting our rates under control, back to inflation, it's a difficult job. It won't be done on day one. It's not possible. We are legislated by central government to have what's called a 10-year plan. The 10-year plan takes the aspirations of the district and then pairs it up with the financial strategies that we can achieve those things over a 10-year period. It's a living document. If you unpick year one, the document will collapse, council will be in chaos, Audit New Zealand and also DIA will be at our door asking us what we are doing. But what we can do is in year 2, with a fiscally responsible focused council that is cohesive, we can start unpicking things, changing things, cutting back expenditure. I have a 100-day plan which I talked to you about before, and it speaks to 5 ways in which we can get our finances back under control. I've still got a minute, I don't know how long it was. Firstly, we would stop spending money like it's going out of fashion. 2, rein in expenditure, so get rid of wasteful expenditure, like would it be council mark, would it be local government New Zealand, the trips away, the staffing costs, our staffing costs, we're 20, So in 2015, our staff wages were 20 million, they're now 34 million, in 3 years they'll be $42 million. It's not sustainable, we need to get that under control. Thirdly, find redundant assets or assets that are no longer commercially viable to us in the short term or long term, sell them off, repay debt. 4, look to government funding, pairing ourselves up with tourism funding for building assets, private partnership assets, and also finally, fifth is making sure that every counsellor understands that every $4,000 we spend, that's a family's rates for the year. Because that is not mindful for people at the moment, mindful for counsellors. When you put a human lens over it, it's one family's rates. Every $4,000 spent, then you get an understanding of how we must be socially and economically responsible with public funds.
I too. Hard to repeat what Zane has said, but I come from a background where we had no money as a family. We learned to get the most out of everything. I've had a succession of companies which have been on the bones of their bum, to put it mildly, and through restructuring and looking closely at the finances, we've been able to turn those around. There's certainly, from what I've seen inside council, a lot of room for improvement. My intention is to limit it to inflation. Of course, I need to get sufficient councillors of a like mind, and that's a real risk that us guys, whoever gets in as the mayor, faces. It's the people that come with us. We need to have at least 5 of a similar vein that want to dive in there and work on the same frequency. At the moment, we haven't got that. They treat the ratepayers like they're a cash machine, and they just go ahead and spend. And I think we've seen that of late where, and I haven't seen the post, but I understand the current mayor puts up his limit on his credit card. And that's just an example. And people have asked me, what would you do? I don't know until we can get and look at those accounts. We've tried to analyse them. What we found was in the pre-election report that we all got, where we could update ourselves, when we tried to refer that back to the financial reports of past years, the numbers don't add up. And I was made inquiries, they're not the same. And they said, oh, that's what you expect with council. I said, not if I'm running the bloody show, you wouldn't. You know, we need to be totally transparent. And if you can't prepare a report for the incoming councillors that doesn't relate to the history of the previous financial reports. And I think that's just symptomatic of what's going on there. And as I mentioned before, young families with kids are struggling, and unfortunately the people running the show at the moment don't seem to understand that. We've got to find a different way of doing it. I believe my experience in that field is capable, as long as we've got the right people with us, to build a team to take it forward. It's going to be a challenge. They're going to push back like hell and try and stop it. And of course there is this stuff forced on us by central government. They want all this new technology, new equipment, new water, new sewage management. But somehow or other we've got to look at other ways of doing it and putting more pressure on central government to come to the party as well.
I think you guys have said it all.
It's a benefit of being last.
Oh, well, I'm not last. These ladies are probably on the same page too. I forgot to mention earlier that we 3 are working together as a team. We're in different wards. We are the Let's Go Taupo team. You actually haven't noticed. So we've got a support team behind us, and we're sharing posters and ideas and supporting each other's events as well. So, because we're in different wards, we're not stepping on each other's toes. And we have the same principles, but we'll probably all get up and repeat the same thing. I don't believe, well, somebody asked if you could get the rates down below inflation. I think that's absolutely impossible.
When you commit to keeping rate rises and or below inflation?
Yeah, I think expecting them to be below inflation is very unrealistic. There's only one council in New Zealand with low rates increase, and they spent 5 years planning it like that. I think it was Wanganui or somebody's got it.
No, it was probably 3 years.
Yeah, they've worked on it for a long, long time. It's not something you can do overnight. And before we get in there, we can't do anything. So I can't promise you anything until I get my foot in the door. But I think setting the rates at the cost of living, I think we're all on the same page with that one. And pushing back. And we can only really make the changes if we all get in as new blood to make those changes. We've watched Duncan struggle for a year, ask questions, get pushed back. Hasn't had questions answered. He's had such a hard time in there. There'd been nothing short of rude to him. He does struggle expressing himself sometimes, but he's a very intellectual man and he knows what's going on, and he's really had a hard time. So if we can get at least 5 others and a new mayor, well, we'll have our future going in the right direction, because it's not going in the right direction at the moment. I'm expecting money out of government is another unrealistic thing. I got into 2 serious conversations with the DIA guys when they were there about the water services program and how if government are pushing it through, it's affecting the rates, and they said, well, too bad, you've got to prove, each council's got to prove they can sustain it themselves, or they'll be forced into joint entities, which is more cost and more rate rises. So something else to be aware of. Okay, thank you. Keeping it brief.
Just a note on rates capping. So with some carefully planned caveats, I do support rates capping. And I haven't, it's helpful to kind of look at the arguments for and against anything in, the media and wherever resources you can find. And I haven't found any legitimate arguments against rate capping. So I do think some of these carefully thought out caveats should include link to inflation. Under inflation would be aspirational. Might as well, aim low. You might happen. An out clause for disasters, and also prioritising debt retirement and minimising user charges. One of the criticisms, I think unfounded, of rates capping is that debt and user charges will blow out, but that's happening anyway without rate capping. Also, of course, the focus on efficient and effective spend of residents' money. No more boom booms. But a whole presentation on that. And also, of course, some innovative ways of generating income for council that minimise the burden on residents. So ask me about that after the main Q&A.
Right, so committing to keeping rate rises at or below inflation. Yes, to a degree. I support keeping rates maintainable and beneficial, but that's not the full picture. Rates keep rising, and out of Mangakino, we don't see the payoff. We have to fight for everything that we get, and people are tired of paying more while getting less. That's why we need smarter income streams and fairer distribution of resources, so rural communities aren't always carrying the burden. I will push for fair rates, but more importantly, for the money to be spent wisely on the necessities. But I think linking them strictly to inflation can be dangerous, because that inflation is caused by central government decisions and districts end up copping the flag. A common theme here is that we are being pushed from central consistently on decisions, and it's time for councils to stand up and actually unite across the country and push back against central and work together on that.
Yes. Okay. We'll do the next question.
Yep.
Council debt. Many councils are now servicing huge debts, and ratepayers are left paying interest on past overspending. What's your view on current council debt levels, and would you support a cap or review on borrowing?
So council debt is obviously out of control. We know this. We need serious tightening now. Definitely full independent review so we can clearly outline wastage and overspend. We know this is again a common theme. The real worry is interest eating into rates, and more projects means more borrowing. We have to slow down now before the debt blows out, and need to keep our borrowing in check. Too often, debt is used to fund glossy projects and consultants while core infrastructure is ignored. This isn't good governance. Yes, I'd support a cap and definitely reviews, but with well thought out clauses for emergencies like natural disasters, etc. But we also need to build resilience by stripping council back to essentials, creating solutions that increase local revenue, and working with other councils to share services instead of borrowing or squeezing the ratepayer.
So, as I've mentioned, with council debt, the total borrowings are currently $272 million. So this leaves us extremely vulnerable to rises in interest rates as well. Worse, we've already got a security watch on our credit ratings, so which means that if our credit rating is downgraded, could lead to a rise in interest rates on that level of debt would be is just scary. And one of many simple strategies is to prioritise debt retirement, and that might sound sort of silly, but talking to Nobby Clark, the outgoing mayor of Invercargill, and when I asked him, well, you know, what are your sort of key priorities for council? Well, the first thing he said was minimise debt, and they do have a somewhat comparable population to Taupo. Currently $42 million less debt than us. When I originally spoke to him, it was, currently they've got 230 million. When I first spoke to him, it was 80 million, but they've since invested a lot in generational infrastructure since then. And the average household rate is $700 a year less compared to Taupo as well. So just this simple, it seems ridiculously simple, but actually focusing on what you want, like, you know, prioritising debt retirement. So I will be talking to him about actual specific tactics for doing that.
Okay, I just took my figures off the 10-year plan, so it sounds like they've changed in a very short time. I believe that council debt is firmly out of control. I think we all say the same thing there. The homes review from council would be good online if we could get some financial reviews that the public could understand, because the way they set the books up, if you look at the 10-year plan and the figures, the budgets online, they're not very easy to follow and they don't add up. They do not add up. So of the 10-year plan, we've got 38 million in non-current liabilities. We've got 234,131 million in normal liabilities. I'm told they have 90 million up their sleeve, which I think they put aside for the bridge. And when you finish playing with that, you've then got to still add on 10 million that they put aside for the CCOs. The CCO is a council-owned organisation, which we're not in favour of, because they've got to have more costs, more running, more directors, more fees. And luckily we managed to keep our water services, Water Done Well, under the Taupo District Council hat, so that the way that they've structured it, unlike the rest of the country, they aren't going to have to put directors and extra costs in it. We are keeping our core structure and infrastructure intact with that. So there's one ray of sunshine on the horizon. Capping rates is the only way to go. There's 188 million shown up so far, but I'm told the real figure's more like 223 million when I add it up off their plan. There's two different figures and they don't match. Whichever way you look at it, you get a different total.
Well, of the 2025-2026 annual plan, the total borrowings add up, current and non-current, add up to 272 million.
Well, I only got up to 223, so there's obviously some more in there. So maybe they don't have that 90 million, because I took that out.
I haven't accounted a possible.
Duncan's asked about it a couple of times and they said it's not relevant at the moment because they haven't actually borrowed it yet.
The $90 million is in stocks and shares and bank reserves.
There you go. So, that's me, kept it short.
This is, to me, it's just basic 101 business, and in every company I've been involved in, we worked hard to reduce the debt down to manageable levels, and because that's what kills you should the interest rates go against you. And you still got to provide the core services, which is roads, rubbish and water, but we just seem to have kept borrowing and borrowing, and when you look at that 10-year plan, it is frightening. Any ratepayer that took the time to read it and understand it, these people that have been speaking to me, if they saw that, they'd probably give up and leave town. You know, so something's got to change. It's just back to basic stuff of paying down that debt, because if we get a disaster like we had with the cyclone Gabrielle, that comes to Taupo, you know, it's going to put a huge cost. Hastings has ended up in a terrible situation where they had to borrow a lot of money to rebuild the infrastructure, and we've got a little bit of headroom, but not a hell of a lot, so we need to sort of focus on that, and it's not going to be easy, but it's a challenge that we're going to have to face.
So we have, sorry, different figures again. So we have $237 million in gross debt, in debt. That's alarming. In 2017, our debt was 142 million. So we have risen by 90 million in 8 years, 40%. More alarming than that is that our debt servicing is now $11 million a year, which is 3,500 families' rates a year. That's the entire population of Kinloch, Hilltop and Richmond Heights with debt servicing. We need to get that under control. And I was pointed out about my 100-day plan, which I alluded to before, the 5 key things we can do to reduce debt. We do have a borrowing cap already. It's in the Treasury Management Policy. We used to be able to only borrow up to 200% of our total income. That was raised last year through fiscal mismanagement to 250%, which means in theory we can borrow $367 million without having to come to anyone and ask for a thing. So that's, we can add another $130 million to our debt burden. Council doesn't have an income problem, it has a spending problem. I propose a sinking lid policy on borrowings, year by year, but that will only take place with a fiscally responsible, unified and laser-focused council.
Can I just add something very important that I forgot? We've done budgets on this across the country with challenging councils, and the average New Zealander is going to should expect currently, unless we can do something drastic to change it, an average of 135% increase in rates inside 8 years. So bigger properties will be paying up to 150% increase, and smaller properties will be a little bit less. And already we're 39% up on a few years ago, and the graph just goes like this. It's really, really scary. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Water control. Local water done well is the new name for 3 waters, but it still involves heavy regulation and central oversight. Will you support true local control of water, including public consultation on major decisions?
100%. I think we've seen that for the last 12 years or longer, the lack of transparency within council, the lack of accountability as well. We saw it recently with the JMA, the process there, which was rather corrupted from the get-go. And shortly after that meeting, I understand, even though the document was deferred, council took a straw poll and decided 7-4 that even once it's been deferred, if they all get back in, they're going to vote to have no consultation on the document. That has to change. If you operate in the dark, whether or not it's perceived that you are, perception becomes reality. And I think we all understand that we've been disconnected from our council for quite some time, and it's getting worse. With regards to water done well, 100%. If in doubt, if council's in doubt that we should or shouldn't consult, we consult. There should be no, oh, we know better. There should be no thinking that just because we're councillors we have this understanding. A straw poll was also done at council just recently, just so you know. The councillors were asked, do they work for council or do they work for the ratepayer? 7 said they work for council. 7. We are off centre. In terms of water done well, you may or may not be aware, but a big expense is coming down the channel from central government for us. It's going to cost us between $500,000 and $800,000 a year to have the Department of Internal Affairs oversight on our water. So we've got a government saying you need to control your spending, but here you go, here's a big, big expense for us. Where does that money come from? It comes from you, the ratepayer, because under legislation, we can rate you till the cows come home. That's why we have the AAA or AA pause rating, or Standard & Poor's rating, because they know that they can rate us till the cows come home. Oh, just very quickly, don't be confused. There's two types of inflation as far as government's concerned. One is what we understand to be the rate of inflation. Then there's local government inflation as well. That's the one they work off. To me, it's just a fancy excuse that they can manage money differently because they're local government, because they're obsessed with the fact that they don't believe they're a business. Councils are businesses. Money in, money out. You are the customer, you're also the shareholder, and what they sell to us, a product, are services. Let's not forget that.
I think the horse is bolted. I've already decided on the water. It's a directive from Wellington, and Taupo District Council have pushed ahead on it. What we've got we're going to be stuck with it for the time being. They just continue knocking up the costs, which they expect us to pay. They're putting in the water meters now, so we will be paying for that in the fullness of time, when they get brave enough. So it will of course help. I actually support water meters because a lot of people waste water, and when they've got a meter at their front gate, they will think about it. So that's not all bad. Keep the costs down a bit, because it does cost a lot of money to build a new tank up the back of on the bypass to the airport there. All that infrastructure costs money, and all we can do is look at it and try and keep those costs under control. We hear all sorts of stories about contracts being awarded, but I've enjoyed getting out and talking to people, and when they come to do the work, the successful contractor occasionally says, "I'm sorry, I'm busy, I can't." They then go back out into the marketplace, talk to people, and they really just have to pay the going rate on that occasion. So there is room for improvement there. We've just got to delve in, find it, and work through it. It's going to take a little while.
Okay. I disagree. I know the history on this, but I don't want to go into it tonight. It would take too long. When we had the decisions about putting chemicals in the water, went from local council, where it was 25, 30 years ago, to the health department. They tried to palm it off on the hospitals, and then the councils didn't want to take responsibility for it 25 years ago, so then the Director General of Health picked it up. So I disagree strongly with the Director General of Health dictating to put a toxic waste byproduct into our water supply. So we, as physical beings, are the filters to get it out of the environment. They should be paying.
Fluoridation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's a broad subject. I don't like using the word fluoride because fluoride is a natural substance in normal water, it's in vegetables. As a product, it's fine. I've worked in dentistry, there's 5 different kinds. It's a hex product. Sodium fluoride, if you want to clean your teeth with toothpaste, fine. I get back to personal choice. I think people should be able to choose what they want to do. And we've not been given a choice as whether we want a toxic waste byproduct from aluminium chimneys shoved down our water supply. So I'm quite hot on that one, but I'm not making an election issue. I'm just talking about it because you brought up water. I actually disapprove with water meters. But despite the claims, I usually go with user pays, but when we're already paying too much for the rates and we're expected to pay more for the rates, I don't like the idea of them adding on another charge for the water services, you know. And if it's a family and you're trying to water your garden and put the kids through the bath, the 1.8 square metres water per property is going to be very difficult for families. I'll be fine on my own, but families are going to really struggle with it. And if you want to irrigate your garden, you're in trouble with it. It's just going to cause a whole lot of problems. And I always say that water comes from the heavens, so nobody owns it. I really disagree with anybody taking ownership of the lake, the rivers, ponds, the puddle in my back garden. I've got rainwater at home because I'm just not prepared to pay for a meter. The meters aren't far away. They're going to start putting them in industrial area. They're all fitted, ready to go and start in September. And they're planning to put them on people's properties next year. Most of them are already installed. All the new subdivisions have already got them. So it's just a matter of them saying a date and they'll pass it through. Everybody in favour? Aye. And before you know it, you'll all be paying extra again on top of your already high rates. So I'm not against the concept of user pays. I've encouraged it in the past. But until we get the rates down, I'm vehemently against us being forced to have
Didn't you
them.
say the rates weren't going to come down though?
Mhm.
You said
No,
before-
I'm saying we can't reduce them because we're already committed to what we're doing, and of course everything's also locked into the 10-year plan. And obviously we all know I've got common sense, the cost of everything goes up every year. Petrol keeps going up and GST hasn't come back, and we're locked into a certain amount. And they did peel a few things out of the plan at that last meeting this year. They pulled out things like extra lawn mowing in the country and extra lawn mowing in town. That got cut back. There was a few things that the community wanted, which would have been nice to have. They peeled all them back. And then Mayor David turned around and gave them the nod to pay an extra, it wasn't a lot, but it was a principal, 5,000 or something to pay for those bike charging machines to be put in outside the Countdown supermarket, because we've already got some outside the main street council building. I'm yet to see a bike in there being charged, and it was supposed to be sponsored package program that was agreed to, as Rachel pointed out at the meeting, and then suddenly council's got a charge for it. So after cutting back a lot of charges, including getting our lawns mowed, they then turned around and pushed in the money to support Bike charging,
Thank you. Thanks, Zane.
okay.
It's got a different perspective to offer on the water control. So there's two really important distinct issues, and one is asset ownership. So we must retain local control of these fixed assets. So assets can't be sold for cash, but they can be borrowed against for competitively low interest rates, which may explain why a certain entity was trying to do an asset takeover of our local water treatment issues. And the second thing is water treatment and delivery is really complex. And you need three types of people: technicians, engineers, and scientists. So, and these experts are scarce and in high demand around New Zealand, and it's also unreasonable to expect a small place like Taupo to have all of these people that we need. So it does make sense to actually share this expertise with other councils, because water treatment is not only super complex, but it's also super important, because Fluoridation does not care whether we live in Taupo or in Havelock North.
Just on the water meters, so yes, I do agree with John that water meters will control better water usage, but like Anne, I'm not 100% for it because we're already being charged and it's going to be an extra charge. And did we get a say before the meters were even put in? And this is a classic council move: do something first, then ask us, and we say no, and they say, oh, we've already done it anyway, we've already spent the money, we may as well just go ahead with it. That's not how we should be operating. And then with the water meters, there is potential for more control. If you haven't paid your rates, we might just turn your water usage down for this month, you know? So those are definitely things that we don't want. I do support true local control of water. Central government has overreached and communities are losing their voice. Water is a timer, a treasure, and decisions should never be dictated from Wellington. Every major decision should involve open public consultation, but we must also respect treaty obligations because they are a part of who we are as Aotearoa New Zealand. I believe the strongest outcomes come when everyday people, Māori and Pākehā, work together, not just corporate entities or trusts speaking on behalf of others. It's the voices of whānau and local communities that must shape decisions, because they're the ones living with the outcomes and protecting water for future generations.
Thank you. So the next question is fluoride without consent. Councils are being forced, mandated to add fluoride to water supplies without asking the public. Do you believe public health decisions should be made locally or nationally? For example, do you think the Director General of Health should be mandating councils to add fluoride to drinking water?
So just for a start there, we all know, right, that mandates are not actual law. So ensuring that public knowledge is there as well on something like that, a mandate is not actual law. But public health decisions should be made local wherever possible. On fluoride, a clear yes to the community must decide. It's a fundamental democratic right. People must have freedom of choice over what they and their families are medicated with, because it is mass medication, and this affects our Bill of Rights. For me, it's simple: hold a referendum, respect the result, and stop central government from overriding local voices. We are supposed to be a country of choice. Choice is our free will and our God-given right as humans. It is up to us how we want to live our lives. If you want fluoride in your water, ka pai. I, however, do not. So let's not sit here and argue till we're blue in the face over my facts and yours. How about create solutions that give us all what we want?
Fluoridation fluoridation of water is it's an interesting topic. The first time I became aware of the issue, I was at school in London in 1983, and a very lovely friend, Leela, had really corroded enamel on her teeth, and she was very self-conscious about her smile. She was covering her mouth, which is pretty sad. And she told me that the reason for this was the enamel and the fluoride in the London drinking water as well. So I didn't, at the time, it didn't occur to me to ask whether her dentist told her that or what the story was, but that was my only knowledge of fluoride in water. And then I just sort of start learning more about it when I'm here. And because I have a science background, I did a little literature review, and a light literature review showed, a current literature review showed that there was no robust evidence that fluoridation of drinking water prevented dental decay in children. And there's a whole lot of stuff around the safety, which I didn't even bother looking at, but there's lots of debate about that, but isn't that the point of fluoridation of water? It's supposed to help. So the most recent reviews was saying that there is earlier studies showing that there are benefits to dental health of fluoridation of water, but those studies were criticised for showing strong evidence of bias and low scientific rigour. Well, that's interesting. Also, Kiko passed me some of the data around water fluoridation, and there was an official information request to the Taupo District Council around this, and the data was around 10 years old. You might know more about this, Anne. So when did they start putting fluoride in water here?
They had a referendum.
Was it 1960? Yeah. So the data from 10 years ago showed that it was costing around $50,000 a year to put fluoride in the water. So I actually did, I got Chat to run the math. If they'd been paying, inflation adjusted, the equivalent of $50,000 a year since 1961, what the cost of that was. And I don't have the figure, I haven't looked at the figures recently. Okay. So I say yes to a referendum, and do the public want to keep paying for an additive of dubious safety and no robust evidence that it's actually effective at preventing dental decay? So yes to a referendum.
Okay, it was twofold. I'll try and say it quick if I've only got, a minute. I was going to say, obviously there needs to be, the choice needs to be local, but the trouble is we need to educate more people. Sadly, half the population still believe that fluoride is good for their teeth because they've suffered 75 years of marketing from the people that have been putting the poison in the toothpaste, and basically they're brainwashed. And until you show them the facts and the unbiased science, of which I have 58 peer-reviewed reports, which I'm more than happy to share with people, and the magazine that we've had through Mary, I've been sharing that with a couple of scientists locally as well, and just trying to wake people up. I'm scared if we push for a referendum at the moment, until we educate people, it could actually go against us, and sadly, it costs a lot of money to do a referendum as well, because so many people are still in the dark and completely brainwashed. I mean, you can understand that after 75 years of programming with the TV on Colgate's and all the popular brands. I watched my mum and my mother-in-law's bones just absolutely turn to chalk in their older years. Every time they bumped or fell over, all their bones broke, because that's the biggest thing that we suffer from, and we've had fluoridation in our water for our lifetimes. The longer we drink it, the more destroyed our body becomes on the inside. Absolutely destroys your bone marrow. Buggers up your thyroid. Mine's crook. I've had to battle that and keep it in balance now for 10 years. I just use iodine. It turns boys' bones into chalk, and boys have testosterone in their teenage years. So if you see swelling on a boy's leg with sore legs, it's not just growing pains, as I've had tried to be fobbed off by a few nurses. It's actually bone cancer, and it's very commonly known. I've got lots of science on it. If anybody wants it, just email me, anntweedy@outlook.com, and I'll forward it on to Okay, and you're correct, Rebecca, there's no science ever anywhere, honestly, not honest science, that's ever said it's good for your teeth. It's absolute balderdash. When I worked in dentistry in London, we used to have to line the kids' mouths with those round cotton ball things that we used to make little toys for them. Line their mouths completely before we put a couple of mils on their double molars that we get if they were weak and starting to get decay. We were super careful that none of it was absorbed through the mouth or swallowed at all because it was so poisonous. And that was one of the things that was drummed into us in training. And yet here we are putting, there's different forms of it. You know, your toothpaste is sodium fluoride, but don't swallow it. All fluoride is toxic.
That's the
If you
trouble.
get enough
A lot of kids are
natural-
getting poisoned by swallowing the toothpaste.
I asked for the fact sheet on my daughter's dental fillings the other day, just on the same subject, and they gave me the fact sheet offline, printed out in the school dental bus. And what they were proposing to put in her mouth was an H4 hazardous toxic substance that is known to cause cancer. It dissolves in heat, with food, hot drinks, and should never be swallowed. And anybody touching it should be fully masked and wash their hands if they touch it. And they're putting it in these 5 and 6 year olds' mouths. So I marched in the next day and put no and signed her form because she was in my care for the 2 weeks. So we need to be very aware of these things. Just
Can you still make those little animals out of the cotton swabs?
No, they don't do them anymore.
Yeah, but can you make them still? Because I'm like,
Okay, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep
Keep
going.
moving. Yeah, sorry.
Do you believe I don't have a policy on this? I'll spend my time looking at the financial side of things. And the first I heard about it was when I heard Anne talking about it in a meeting at the so-called hotel. And ironically, my dentist was prescribing special toothpaste with extra fluoride in it. So, that's the benefit of Anne coming here and listening to you. I don't have a view. I do believe the decision should be made locally. Anything that you put in my food or water that's not natural, I don't like. Chrissy, who looks after me, tries to keep me on the straight and narrow. We try and eat healthy, drink healthy, and I'm learning a lot. And that's a benefit of being in a committee where you can hear both sides of the argument, and that's what I enjoy about it. But I have not given it a lot of thought, other than you were talking the other day in the hotel.
I'll send you the Iranian report.
I'm sure you.
It's got 48 peer reviews worldwide.
But a decision that should be made locally. It should not be someone in Wellington saying you're going to do this or do that.
We don't want the dictatorship, do we?
So when it comes to decisions for medical, for health, it should be, well, there are moments where it should be made locally, and we've had the COVID experience, which no one else want to talk about, but there were some really cool things that we did do locally, which we did faster and smarter than other areas did, and it had good outcomes for us. When it comes to fluoride, I know it's legislated through government, and this has been a challenge because I know people are very passionate about it, but I agree with Anne that don't go pushing for a referendum now, it would be no good. I suggest that you get people to help them understand there's 2 sides to the story, and I'm happy for you to send me some peer-reviewed information. When I was on council, what we got a lot of the time were very, very passionate people who perhaps didn't articulate what they wanted to say very, very well. It was almost like bang, 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 bang on the door. I think if they parlayed it in a manner which, especially when it comes to scientific documents, then great. Then let's go and bang on the door of the beehive and say that we want to make the decision ourselves. Maybe the way around, if it does come to a referendum, we don't just do the referendum on that, we couple it up with maybe something else that's pertinent in the environment at that time, save ourselves money and do a referendum for a couple of things maybe, whatever that may be, but certainly a discussion.
Can I just interrupt there? I just want to make a statement. We probably tripped you up a little bit there because in essence, we don't want a referendum. I don't want this young lady making a decision for me about what is going into my water, right? So actually we want it just left, we don't want a referendum, we want it left completely out of the water. Especially if we're going to meter it as well, we want to pay for what we would like to receive, which is non-fluoridated water. So I won't be paying any meters, I mean we're out in the country, but if I was in town I wouldn't be paying for any meters that provide me with fluoridated water because that's not the product I want. Okay?
That's a bill of rights breach.
Yes,
So you shouldn't do.
and it's about choice, right? So if the water is free of fluoride, the person who wants to use fluoride and have that on their teeth can buy fluoride tablets are still available. They can buy fluoride toothpaste, that's available. They can go to the dental clinic and get that fluoride paste put with the gloves and the PPE gear put all over their teeth. So choices, right? But with it being in our water, the referendum is a no, absolutely not. And I know Fluoride Free New Zealand agree with, they are basically the ones saying that, because I don't want another individual deciding for me what goes in my water. It isn't ethical, it is against the Bill of Rights. Sorry, just missed that.
Well said.
Okay, democracy and representation. More and more decision making is happening behind closed doors or by unelected panels. How will you ensure council processes remain open and democratic?
I've got a big list, it might take me longer than a minute. I have a plan to rebuild trust between the Taupo District Council and ratepayers, because as I said before, it's clearly been lacking. One of those things I'd like to do is to stop all the closed door meetings that we're having, reduce it down to an acceptable level where it's only in minute cases where there's a commercial decision that we have to make, but then we're at the earliest possible moment release it to the public. Or if it's something that is pertinent to the community, then we dialogue with them post the meeting if it's possible to do so. If I asked you to name half a dozen councillors right now, would you be able to name them? I doubt many of you would. Our councillors are pretty much invisible. Our mayor is currently, he's not visible most of the time either. He's never front-footing things. We've got to rebuild that trust. So how do we do that? As part of my plan. Firstly, we create a dashboard, an online dashboard, where you'll be able to see in real time what our rates are, what we're spending, what our debt levels are, tracking all things that relate to council operations. Secondly, for me as a mayor, as a potential mayor, I'll do a mayoral report card. So every month I'll do a report card, place it online so you can see what I've done. Not chatter, not meeting people, results. I'll pilot a councillor in the street program. We put councillors out to the street, they become the face of council. They talk to the communities, you get to know them, you feedback through them. Coupled with that, I'll create social media profiles for them. I'll sit them down in the office and say, okay, what do you want to achieve in 3 years that you're here? What are the 3 skills that you bring to the table? How can I empower you to do them? Let's make it happen. Hold them to account on a regular basis. The same with the CEO. You need to hold me to account. And I rely on you to do that, to hold me, to say to me, hey Zane, you're not delivering like you said you would. 3 hours a week, the doors will be open on my office. You can come and tell me your concerns. No need for an appointment. Just make yourself known. There's a whole other things, so many other things I wanted to do. But the whole goal is to get trust back between everyday ratepayers and residents in our district with council. Because again, if leadership's not listening, it's not good leadership.
But it's worse than that, saying that. They actually deliberately set out to mislead us. And that's the bit that upsets me, you know. It's deceitful what's been happening, and we saw a classic example of that with the JMA, but there are many other instances where they're occurring, and we've heard a lot about it tonight, where they try and push stuff through, hide it in amongst other reports. That's a bit that worries Duncan. He said, I asked him about this special marriage zone. He said, well, the risk is he hadn't studied it enough, and he said it's quite likely there's something in there that he doesn't know about. So that's why I went to that meeting. But fortunately, there's a process now that's going to follow. But there is not a lot of transparency in there. They deliberately set out to withhold information from us. So the opportunity now is for everyone in this room. We can actually clean the outfit out and start afresh, and that's almost what it needs. The thinking is actually wrong in that organisation, right from the top down. And unfortunately, David is a lovely guy, no one would argue that, but he's pretty ineffectual. I think he's done his time, and hiding stuff from us. As for referendums, they cost money, but so does democracy. And you could hold a referendum. There's probably going to be a number of things here that you could put a referendum out and cover a whole lot of subjects. But I think there's other ways of handling it, and that's being transparent and getting proper feedback from the community.
Okay, well, I've been to enough meetings now to say that a lot is discussed before the meetings actually go public, because they record the main meetings. They have a lot of workshops in the background. Well, I've been in workshops in Hawke's Bay Council numerous times, and we always took our plans and ideas to council and they always listened, and 90% of the time they acted on them. Here it seems to be a slightly different attitude, a different process. So we need to ask for more openness and transparency. I think we've all said that. We would like more public involvement, but a lot of this actually means the public need to get more involved. We've gone quite a long way down with this Foresterup Must Trust Board without 90% of Taupo understanding what's really going on. And the meeting on Tuesday made it quite clear that that original agreement between Rick Cooper and the lake was nothing to do with the new JMAs. We had 3 new JMAs. There's one for the Waikato River, one for some other river, and the draft JMA that's on the table now. And they made it very clear the other day that there's no undoing it. It's all government legislated and come down from Te Taupapi, Maori, whatever you call it in Wellington. And the only thing we're allowed to be able to push back on is the extensions, the things that they're trying to add on. We might be able to push back against those.
We'll change that what we say.
But the original document says in the closing clause that either party can give the other party 20 days notice to dispose the whole document. So if we want to get rid of the original JMA, this is a 2009 one, that is possible. Referendums cost a lot of money. We've all said the same thing because we're answering the same questions, but educating the public would be a really good start. So if you've got 5 minutes, jump online to the Taupo District Council site and have a look at the 3 JMAs, and particularly the current draft JMAs. A lot, and it's not easy to understand, but it's worth reading to get your head around it, and then we can go from there. Okay.
Just so everyone's aware, when it comes to referendums locally, they do not and cannot have any impact on central government policy or legislation. It will just be a steer from the community, so you need to be aware.
Yeah, broadly speaking, I feel like there needs to be a whole lot more daylight on discussions and decisions with council, and this was part of my kind of outrage impetus to stand, just seeing the public being excluded from decisions that they are paying for that impact them. So there's many ways of doing that, and suggested all good things. I really agree on having open meetings. I feel like this commercial sensitivity excuse for closed meetings is being abused. So really, unless a meeting involves both the naming of the company and the prices, it should be open, should be online, and that's actually for the business benefit, advantage to the businesses involved as well. We also need more rigour around declaration of conflict of interest with councils as well. Council stuff. Yeah, that's kind of scary.
So when it comes to conflict of interest, it's self-determination. So you decide if you've got a conflict of interest or not. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So, as I'm sure John will be the same, as a mayoral hopeful, I would think that, well, for me, I would impress on a councillor if they've got a conflict, that it's not about them, it's about the reputation of council, and I would prefer they stepped out of the picture. We can't force them.
Totally support that. And just broadly speaking, clear communication, and that's a really big thing with me. And you know, when I was doing my PhD, and I was majoring in health psych, and both my supervisors had engineering backgrounds because of robotics. But my secondary supervisor was head of computer and electrical engineering at Auckland Uni, so he didn't know the psychology stuff. So he was constantly saying to me, explain it in plain English. This was not a stupid guy, you know, so I was writing for a multidisciplinary audience. So should council be. And it's not hard to explain it carefully, clearly, if you actually want to. And these days with AI, there is no excuse. It is relatively quick and cheap to do that. So, and there's many other ways as well, and it's super important.
So like what Zane was saying, rebuilding that trust in council and community, I think is very, very, very important, and something that we're definitely missing, and particularly out in Makakino, it's something that is absolutely lacking. And so we need, again, that better representation. Councillors must get back to basics with our democracy. Too many decisions made behind those closed doors, buried in language people can't understand, same things. And these same things are just continuously repeated, so it is clear we do need that overhaul we need that refresh and that clean out. I support stronger codes of conduct, clear rules requiring councillors to be open and accountable, along with the declaring conflicts of interests. Councillors also are not obligated to be at a council meeting or vote on major decisions, like the JMA. We had a councillor missing, actually our councillor from Mangakino was not present in that vote. If she had voted, it could have been very different. So I think all councillors should be obligated to turn up to every meeting as their job and vote. As the saying goes, democracy dies in darkness. My commitment is to be the light to every ratepayer and resident so they know exactly what is happening and has a voice that's heard.
Climate change and managed retreat. The climate change narrative is being used to justify planning, restrictions, levies, and even forced relocation. What's your position on managed retreat, and should it ever be mandatory? What is your opinion on climate impact statement being included in the local government policy?
So I love the giggle as soon as climate change is mentioned. And we all know what's going on there. Mandatory managed retreats, not practical for our country. Almost every community carries some risk. Look at the fault lines in our country, look at the geographical outlays. Does it mean that we all just retreat when things get bad? Instead, councils need smarter planning, disaster savings and budgets, and better protective measures. Big value of mine is prevention over treatment. I saw firsthand after Cyclone Gabriel, when I helped with cleanup crews, communities were left behind and offered little to no support, while millions is still sent overseas to other countries. Forced retreat robs people of homes, livelihoods, and their community ties and connection to the whenua. In times of crisis, communities are banding together. They shouldn't be forced apart. I oppose mandatory retreat and will always back voluntary, community-led solutions. We do need better support from Central though. They seem to leave us when we need help and slam us with debt because they don't want to keep their because they want to keep their pockets lined. I think it's a bit of a toxic relationship.
Yep. Managed retreats, no, a non-issue for Taupo. Climate impact statements and policy, no. Preparation of such a statement is unlikely to leave any spare change from $100,000, and we have more urgent, important uses of ratepayers' money, including not taking it from them in the first place.
Yep.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
I'm a sage, I'll just say it as it is. There is no natural climate change problem in the world anywhere.
Exactly.
It's an absolute hoax. Okay, let's get the truth out there straight away. Carbon credits are making money for a lot of people in the industries, and they're offsetting them and making a lot of money out of us along the way and stuffing up our environment and our budgets and our lives. So I'm prepared to push back at any aspect of that I can. It's the biggest scam we've had for years, next to the pandemic, which we all know is absolute con as well. I'll push back on any plans for managed retreats. It should never be mandatory. Mandatory, as we've already said tonight, is not law, it's not legal. Remember Jacinda sitting up in bed? Of course, the mandatory things we've recommended with COVID aren't my personal opinion, that's a government recommendation.
Yeah.
She stepped herself out of the legal charge box. Let's not go there just yet. Okay, but remember our government is behind these crazy ideas, and it's not the local councillors. We're getting pushed down, and we know how far that tree of corruption goes, don't we? Do you want me to answer this next question? I'll sit down and wait for the next one. Okay, keep it quick.
The only thing consistent about climate change is the inconsistency of it, the expert advice that we're given. And this is a job for Wellington, and all we can do is prepare ourselves as best we can to handle any emergencies. Normally I'm at the front lines of that stuff. Managed retreat, I think you should look around yourself and decide when it's time to retreat. You know, if you're on the edge of a cliff and the weather's bad, you might want to think well before the weather turns bad when you're going to retreat. I know that's not what climate retreat is about, but you know, we've got to start looking after ourselves and preparing ourselves for disasters. We can't rely on other people.
When it comes to the retreat, yeah, very unlikely for us, as Rebecca just said, because we're on a lake. We have about 27 tributaries that feed into our waterway, one that leads out. Tū Wharetauā gets paid per cubic metre of amount of water that gets pushed through. It's artificially high, so if we do have problems with our water, the level of the water, we simply open the gates and release the water downstream. Interesting, you made me think about something actually at Waihi Village on the southern lake shore, which is the #1 geothermal red zone slip place in the country. Council has been trying for years to get reticulated water into it, telling them that they need it, so they can develop land further there in the greatest dangerous place we have in our district in New Zealand. It's bizarre. They've also told Takanu on several times they won't issue any more building permits down there because of the rising water levels in the lake, which we control. So no, I don't think it's really an issue for us because we can control our waterways if we need to. In regards to climate impact statements, we're $237 million in debt. We can spend our money in other places. And I cannot stand, no matter what it is, virtue signalling rubbish. And I'm not saying that climate change is rubbish, because some people it's very, very real. But there's no point putting these lot of policies, agendas, and strategies that go into our policy have no real purpose in the here and now, but they certainly send a nice signal. So let's concentrate on getting our other issues sorted first, and then look at that.
Just a little note for the people standing. The managed retreats, if you are in a seismic zone, a volcanic zone,
Yes.
you can be managed. It's not just, it can be if you're in a volcanic risk zone,
Sure.
you could be managed out, and it's more of a private property.
If the water in the lake rises, so
No,
only
no,
grab your
if-
skates and
if-
head to Auckland.
If the government says there's a risk that you're a high earthquake risk or seismic risk, just like a sea level risk or a cyclone risk, that could be something that they could say you residents are at too high a risk.
Yes.
So it's not just it's a broader. There's more in that.
Right.
Just a little bit of extra there. Okay, I'm gonna skip one of these. So we're just going to do the digital surveillance, and then because that ties into the 15-minute cities one. Councils are trialling smart city tech. We see all this. We see all the cameras all around. Facial recognition, smart poles, the LED smart poles, biometric ID, often with no consultation. What is your position on digital privacy and council data sharing?
It's a top priority. So yes, council requires certain information from our ratepayers, whether it be their full names, their telephone numbers, their addresses, which you probably already have, but also sometimes bank account details. That's required from us, from government, again, but also for communication purposes. It must be held by us in the strictest confidence, never passed on to a third party nor sold unless required by central government to do so. Trust and security are two non-negotiables for me.
So this issue is not coming to a town near us, it's already here. The horse is gone, folks. They're gathering the data, it is being shared, I'm sorry. We've got it already. In fact, you walk around my house and I'll have you recorded, and if you've been there once before, your name will actually come up on the screen. I'll stop there.
These spies are expensive.
I disdain the idea of the whole digital thing. I'm old school and I'm not comfortable with any of it. I'm opposed to facial recognition, which my computer keeps asking me to put my face or fingerprint on, this, that and the other. Really been coming through on the computers quite strongly over the last 6 weeks. Surveillance cameras, I detest them. The e-rucks are just to track and trace us and screw more money out of our bank accounts and make life harder than what it already is. And the data sharing is horrible. It leaves us open for being hacked. However, our government is already building a massive data storage complex in Auckland on the Marine Naval Yards. If you haven't seen it, go and have a look. They're well down the track with implementing more than I want to see implemented in my lifetime, but it's coming at 100 miles an hour. It's not like end of next year. It's like they've got all their ducks in a row and it's just going to go boom, 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 and you're going to wake up one morning about mid-October and it's going to be right, all the old bank currency's gone, you're all CBDC, everything's been converted. The banks have already said publicly they're only going to support you for 100,000 in the bank, so be wary of splitting banks or investing in gold and silver. Try and protect yourselves, because what's coming is going to be challenging, to say the least. Thank you.
I appreciate that a lot of the surveillance stuff is already here. I'm just a no. I know the horses bolted a little bit, bearing in mind I'm ex-police, and just so I escaped the police a couple of decades ago, but although I was still involved with them for a long time, and
It didn't sound quite right. It sounded like you escaped from the police.
no, I see that there was quite a deliberate choice of words. And the abuses I saw of, really kind of corny stuff, but really shitty stuff, like the male cops I'm working with, see an attractive woman driving past or something else, and looking up there, checking the car window and finding out where she lives and going and asking for a date, and just terrible, like it's corny, but it's terrible, and that was just happening all the time. So I'm just against the whole thing. It's not used for any useful purpose. Very little of it is actually underpinned by any reputable data as to this will prevent something terrible happening. It's not. It's just control and using fear to control people as well. So with a little bit of lived experience behind that, and especially the abuse of the information obtained, it's a no from me.
Digital privacy is a major concern. We are becoming more and more plugged in, and it's extremely damaging and harmful to our existence as humans and our humanity. I say no to any tracking, facial recognition, overuse of cameras, or digital codes for entry. We must encourage the old ways. Unplug and safeguard ourselves. Our identities are who we are. Each one is unique and special. We must treasure these. And again, it's been assumed this is what everyone wants. Did we get asked? I will stand with the community, back and encourage pushback on digital agendas. We will team up with other councils across the country and create a movement to shift this change we do not want or need.
Too late, I think. Come into any grocery store.
Yeah, I think it's more about the public spaces, like private property, like houses and businesses. It's except that it's the traffic lights, like the stuff where if you're just walking in a public sphere, the council or whoever's looking at. Yeah.
You're on camera.
Yeah.
And we need to look at who's paying for these as well. And so with our CCTV cameras around here, they're not actually realistically used for the police or to help or stop crime. It is to control and track the people. So if you see somebody flying through a red light and you call the police and say, oh, I've just seen this car, rego, blah, 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 you'll pick it up on the cameras. They will tell you to make a request through council because they are council operated, not the police. So they're not there for our protection or safety. They're there to protect and safeguard the central government.
Okay, so I'm going to skip to the last question due to time. And so this will be the last question on the list, and then we maybe have a short Q&A. Okay, core services. We keep hearing about strategic frameworks and long-term visions, but people just want the basics done well. Will you commit to prioritising roads, rubbish and water over vision documents?
So this is a surprise to us, but that's
Right.
fine,
No,
just so you know.
Hang on.
I think we'll.
Is this, wasn't this one on there?
Sorry.
No.
We've got, do you support the
No.
model?
Okay,
Yeah.
let's
No.
just-
Do it, right,
Well, we
No, don't worry.
Are you gonna say,
no,
okay, I thought
No.
these were already know that.
because this will be asked in other places.
Yes, yeah. Sorry.
You're gonna get
Sorry,
some.
poor old Tristan. We've given him a document with stuff on that he didn't.
Okay,
get to.
okay.
Well, I've
Thank
got
you,
another one
Tristan.
ready to go. You're asking about the 15-minute cities, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
We-
that,
we-
that
we
was
really
it.
have-
We'll just stop it there
we
with
have
our
time limit?
questions, because
Yeah.
I'm sure these people who've come
Yeah.
along might have some other ones. Now, obviously, you don't have to ask all 5 your question, you might have just one specific person you might want to ask. And we'll just give that, I don't know, 10 till 1:45, because these people have got busy lives, if that's okay. So 10 minutes, yeah, we'll leave it at a limit of that. Has anyone got a question for our people?
I've got one here which you seem to have skipped over. Will you oppose co-governance and appointments without a vote? Can all of you?
Say the question again.
Co-governance?
Will you oppose co-governance or appointments without a vote?
Absolutely.
So when it comes to appointment without a vote, yeah, I'm against that as well. I think it's not right. Next year, we've got a representation review.
So you're against Mary Walks?
Yes, yep. Well, I haven't seen the benefit from them, and that's probably council's fault. Where's the scorecard?
And co-governance?
Where has the scorecard been to say that Māori wards have been beneficial for Māori people? Because I don't see it. I walk amongst it every day, and I think there has been some small gains made, but it's a concern, an overarching concern is it the best representation for Māori people? And 6 years ago, I think it was, when we did the representation review, I spoke out against it, because I was concerned about Māori having the right representation, and that actually stemmed from Manga Kino, because Tūpari Toa and the Puakani people are not connected. There's no familiar relationships there. And I had concerned that the Puakani people would never be able to get a Māori war councillor on to represent them. They would always be at the beck and call of Tūpari Toa. And I was guaranteed at the time that they would look after Puakani people. Whether that has happened, I don't know, but you live there. So next year we have a representation review, and I have a few concerns, and I'll be raising my suggestions for that next year. That includes the East Ward as well, the rural East Ward, also for Turangi, and maybe Mangakino as well. So co-governance, co-management, yeah, it's an unfortunate. It's become a very, very divisive issue. We also have co-governance operating in the Southern Lake already with Mana Whakahono. Again, no scorecard. Council's missed a trick there.
Can I
I'm
just
totally
make
confused,
a-
Zane.
make
So
a
you're
comment
against
on that?
wards or what?
They haven't worked. They have not worked. And this year we all got. I don't know why they are a election issue, because you all get to vote on the 11th of October as to which way this will go. You will have the power. Polls have been done before. 67–80% have said that they didn't want them. So the public will decide. That may be a different outcome for people if the council had given them report cards.
I would argue they should be asking about not just the Māori ward, but also the rural ward.
That's what I just said.
both
Yep.
of them,
All the
right?
wards
Are
should be
they-
up.
are
Yep.
they-
Should we have a district? Should we have a district-wide?
Because I do not remember
councillors.
them asking us if we wanted it.
Yeah, you get. I know you've been cut short out there, and it wasn't articulated well at all. Māori now have less representation than they did before. That's a fact. It was always my concern. What also concerns me is the assumption that all Māori think the same. They don't. Do all Pākehā think the same? And they can't do, because you're in a grey top, you're in a blue top, you're in a black top. This assumption that it's a very, I think that's done with the best of intentions, but hasn't worked as well as it could have done. There we go.
Should we just do, sorry, Anne, should we just do on our ward stances, because I think we've all got them, so John.
Well,
George is
mine's
gonna
quite
vote.
clear. Right from day one, I've said no to married wards. In fact, I agree. I say no to all wards, but particularly married wards, because that is causing a lot of division in this community. And we just need to move on from that and work together collaboratively. So you need to be brave like me and actually put it on your website and say
Because
what
we
you
have to work with, post this, we have to work with Māori. You have to sit around the table with people and have healthy relationships. That is my concern. I want to be able to sit down at that table on the other side of it, hopefully if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, and have constructive outcomes with our people. If I come out heavy hitting, I don't think it's going to serve us well. The people will decide on Māori wards. That's democracy.
On October the 11th, the decision will be made.
And we raised the question at council a couple of days ago too. I was told one of the councillors said that we had our wires crossed about the draft JMA and had no reason to get our concerns about what they were doing. And then somebody raised the question, well, there's at least 4 or 5 mentions in that document about co-governance. So what is co-governance, and if it's not part of it, why is it in there? And then one of them argued that, how do they put it? That the council still had the final say on matters even though they had that agreement in place. That they're contradicting themselves all the way through. It makes it very, very
I think
frustrating.
there's a push within perhaps staff. You saw that in the JMA, which I spoke at. Staff seem to be quite passionate about this happening. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but that was the impression I got. So councillors were asked to go away, form a group, and then come back, go away and dialogue, come back with a set of changes for this new JMA. They weren't given a brief or set of expectations. They had carte blanche. Out they went. They came back with 170 new changes to the JMA update. Councillors went, what the hell? We didn't give you this wide brief. You can't blame Kiwi for that. If you were offered, hey, look, what do you want? You would have gone, I want gold
They're going to
caps.
ask for it, aren't
Yeah,
they?
they are.
Absolutely.
It's their fault.
Yeah.
So
You don't need a very vivid imagination.
No. So council marched us into that situation with Māoridom.
To see that the relationship between Te Whare and the Taupo District Council, in my view, I could be wrong, is far too close. Live in the same building, and there's too much influence going on there, and it was a mistake made that they moved in with Te Whare in the same building, and I think we all regret that in the long run. There were other offers that were made, and they were turned down, and it was probably on a better basis, I understand, but I don't have the full facts, but it concerns me that there is this close tie between the local iwi and the council, and we're seeing that come through in that JMA. That's what triggers it for me.
And the JMA is creating more division. And what they're going to do?
Let's go down and give everyone
I'll just keep it brief. They're already in dangerous ground being in the building with them. We're now leasing and paying rent, for more rent than what we were already paying in the old buildings, which were fit for purpose. And if they fall out with them, which is where it's going to go if they keep pushing this JMA stuff, how's that going to transpire when they're in their building?
Well, it depends on their lease tenure, so I understand it's 20-year, but I haven't been able to see what the increments were. Normally, you sign a commercial lease, it will be 5 years plus 3, whatever. I understand it's a 20-year block lease, which is concerning at $1.2 million a year.
I'll see you
Consultation on that.
And then we don't own it at the end.
No.
Okay, Rebecca?
My base premise is that Māori, like all Indigenous people, have essential wisdom that we will need to access. What I don't know about the Māori wards in Taupo is most of it. I've only been here 5 years. The little I know is it feels like probably echo Zane and also John that it hasn't worked. On very little knowledge, my concern is that the 2 Māori ward seats are actually the 2 Whaitoa Māori Trust board seats. And I've been sort of talking to other people about it to flesh out my perspectives on it. A local Kiwi has said, both sides are thieves. And also, oh, look, a squirrel. I have a suspicion that there's something, some people are actually trying to promote conflict between Māori and Pākehā. So what are we not looking at when we're looking at Māori and Pākehā conflict? And I'm not scared of conflict, and from at a really basic level from psychology with team building, actually conflict is actually an essential part of team formation. Like if you don't go through the conflict phase, you're not going to get to the other side. And actually, I'm a huge fan of diversity because, robust research. it leads to innovation. So I'm not afraid of conflict at all, but it's a very generative phase, but we need to move past it to access the innovation that can result from that. So there's a little bit of a hodgepodge in my view.
So I do have a little bit of a different stance on Māori wards. I do agree with the conversation about how the wards potentially are not benefiting Māori the right way though. And just touching on that diversity aspect from Rebecca, this is something that is quite unique about our team, and that's something that we wanted to bring as well with the idea that we're a team, is that we are diverse, but we have already worked through our differences and our diversities, and we are ready to support each other in those and understanding them. Anyway, so Māori wards were created to give Māori a stronger voice in council. This is important because Te Tiriti promised protection, and Māori perspectives provide knowledge of the whenua and why that benefits all of us. I know some worry it takes something away from others or gives away power, but the truth is Māori already carry a lot of power as mana whenua. If we put aside differences and work together, Māori and Pākehā, side by side, we could actually decentralise from central and bring real solutions home to our district. Right now, the entire ward system isn't operating very well. Like mentioned before, people feel cut off, ask why they can't vote for every single councillor in the district. I believe this needs a review. But I also believe Māori voice is not something to fear, it's something to embrace. It's something that can strengthen us if we can join forces, because we all want the same thing. Better outcomes for our people here on the ground, not just for those sitting at the top. And I would very much like to make it clear that the issues in our council at the moment are not between council and Māori, they're between council and an entity, which is Te Wharetoa Māori Trust Board, which is not the same as Ngāti Te Wharetoa as an iwi. And just the same in iwis, the top, like the rest of the country, the top gets everything and it doesn't trickle down to the hapu. Just the same, we're all the same in the streets. We're all the same. We are all struggling. We are all being hit by the same excessive costs, the cost of living, the cost of our power companies, the cost of our supermarkets, and we must realise that we need to stop wasting our energy fighting between ourselves and put that energy back to fighting central, because that is where the division comes from.
So can you answer the question? The question that I posed here, written down, will you oppose co-governance or appointments without a vote? Would you support it or would you oppose it? And now the three of you are probably working together on this. So how do you...
As I said, we are a diverse team.
Do you oppose it or do you support it?
Neither. So again, it comes down to many different things. Co-governance isn't what actually either side wants either. Māori don't want co-governance. Some of them do, some of them don't. Just the same as Pākehā. This is about working together. Co-governance isn't the solution, but creating more division isn't the solution either. Knowledge, I think, is the biggest solution here. We have not been taught correctly from the start.
So we're not a political party. We're a team that support each other on key issues, and we have different views on things, and yet we still support each other.
And that's the
Work
idea
together and inform
of
each other.
council as well, is that we are supposed to sit in there open-minded and think about what's best for the entire community without taking our very personal perspectives into those seats, because those seats are for us to honour and represent the entire community, which is Māori and
That's a
Pākehā.
good point, actually. I know I'm not talking about the Māori wards in general, but one thing you learn when you're on council, you must learn, is to understand different points of view. Because if you don't, you're not going to get anywhere. But also, you must have friction. you don't have a degree of friction, there is no forward momentum.
Yeah.
If we're talking about change,
It's how
there has to be a
bring
degree of
about
friction.
new ideas is by having conflict. Conflict is normal and it's healthy, but it's about managing it.
We can disagree, but not become disagreeable. Like you just said, you have to feel it. You
Hey,
disagree.
could you just tell my partner that?
The back that was asking about the co-governance, if you have a look at my Facebook page, I have said publicly very clearly that I'm opposed to the JMA and co-governance. And if I got hold of that document and had the power to do so, I'd rip it up and put it in the bin.
With the JMA, just to be aware,
Yeah.
so I was talking to the Associate Minister of the Environment last week. He rang me and said that they've got some other things coming down the chute to us, things that haven't been released to the public yet, and that we need to be aware of. He wanted to know how I could help him articulate it to iwi. I said, if it's taking stuff away from the iwi, best of luck there, I can't help you with it. But he said it's going to impact on the JMA more than we already know. So I think the JMA document isn't this big, fearful, hideous piece of partnership agreement as everyone might think. Over the next 6 months, because it's not going to come back to council until the new year. It's just not possible. The new council coming in, nothing will get to the table until at least February. Then, and only then if you've got the right councillors in, it goes out for consultation, which is why, as John said,
And the right mayor.
it goes out for consultation, and then you all get to have a say on what the contents of the JMA, but that will be impacted by what's happening with the RMA changes as well, which are going to be quite substantial. So I asked everyone to draw a breath on that JMA, just park it over there, and let's redress it in February with them, which is, we hope, is going to be a big council change. I don't make people too hot under the collar about it. It's not consequential to us right now. February.
It's that energy thing, remembering that we need to direct our energy to the right issues.
Would you consider a co-mayorship?
I know, that's like a
Chris, you had a question.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on the continuing membership of the LGNZ?
Personally, I take it to council. I think they become an activist group, and I would question it's costing us $70,000 a year plus GST, so $77,000 to $80,000 a year. But it's not just that, it's what else it's costing us. We fly around the country, all over the place, attending their meetings. They come to us as well. It's all costing people money one way or another. I personally believe we need to say goodbye and join the other 7 that have already left. The same with Council Mark. Have you heard of Council Mark? No. It was created by once again another think tank within government, where we align ourselves to other councils and we get scorecards. We pay for it, see how good we're doing against other councils. Surely we must know if we're doing a good job or not. Surely.
People will let you know.
So those 2 things we say goodbye to.
Cool. John?
All I'd say is, I look forward to taking instructions from the residents of the district. And just touching on what Hope said, we need to get over this Marion Parkhouse thing. We are residents of Taupo. The moment we keep talking, I don't wish to repeat you, Hope, but the moment we keep talking about Maori have special privileges, and the Parkhouse got this, we're never going to move. We've got to move together as one group. We've got to work together, and we've got to stop causing the division amongst us if we're going to prosper.
I think that division's been pushed through from central government quite strongly. It's got completely out of hand down there. I don't know how many of you watch Parliament online. I've been horrified with some of the ones I've watched over the last few months.
And that is just to distract us from
Yes.
what else is going on. That's it. Make us all, look at these silly people fighting amongst themselves, and we're just going to take away all their rights up here. That's what's truly going on. We all want rights. That's what
we should all have the Bill of Rights. It's in the
Yes.
Treaty of Waitangi, so it should be upheld anyway. But it's for everybody. It was set up for everybody that lives in New Zealand.
New Zealanders.
Yes.
Yeah.
You live in New Zealand, the Bill of Rights is for
everybody.
you as well, regardless of what, where you're in, regardless of whether you come from Scotland, England, or were born in New Zealand. We should have the same rules for everybody. Yeah.
Rebecca, what was your response to Chris's question?
LGNZ.
What's your favourite type of biscuit?
Anzacs.
LGNZ. There's some really strange stuff coming out of them today. They were coming out against rate capping, and that was some of the
articles I looked at, and their arguments just did not stack up, and that's really strange. So let's save some money right there if we can.
They were opposed to it. They're pushing for more borrowing, we just need to be mindful of that.
No.
Hope, what's your opinion on LGNZ?
I think that I agree with everybody else here. We need to step away and stop wasting money. Obviously, that's our big thing. Stop the money spending, the countless meetings, the hours upon hours of meetings. And I think going back to sort of a bit of a decentralised system again, so if people remember the borough councils that we used to have and that system that we used to have, this is something that we need to be looking at, working with other councils as well, working to find better ways to fund ourselves so that we can get away from our GFA and make our own decisions and not be told what to do.
I guarantee you the first person that brings that agenda item to the table about leaving LGNZ, council staff will rally the central government to stop it from happening. That's what I think will happen.
That's where we rally each other.
But what happens once you're inside the tent, what will happen is it becomes persuasive. And to stay firm to your, to hold your values close, whether by intentional design, it does wane. So you've got to be focused on the end goal, stay true to yourself. And maybe do a video recording a way of standing now and play it to yourself.
Yes.
Because it's easy to do. I've seen it. I've seen councillors become part of the machinery, they drink the Kool-Aid, they buy the farm. The best of intentions.
Needs a longer term strategy where you slowly undermine LGNZ, and then this time next year you can go,
This is what I think you should do. You should hire, I'm not going up to hiring people for the sake of hiring people. You have a project manager and their job is to keep council cohesive and work with the CEO, strategise the path forward, keep you on track. That's what I think you need to do. I mean, David's got a minder at the moment, costs him $100,000 a year, so he has 2 PAs. Say bye-bye, hire somebody with some skill, someone who has local government experience but works in the private sector, strategise, keep council on track. What's your vision for the year? How are we going to achieve it?
That's accountability, right?
100%, because you're going to get nowhere without accountability. You can talk all the lovely words you like, but at the end of the day, you've got to have a, what have you done? Because babies, I don't want to hear about it. What have you done for your people?
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I was just, I think I've kind of got a general drift in my head about most of you, but when someone comes, like you know, and somebody dumps a conspiracy theory or something on you, are you the sort of person that goes with the mainstream media and what they're being told, or are you sort of the person that goes, oh well, maybe they've got a point, I should go and have a look at what they're saying and look at the evidence that they're coming from? Yeah, both of you two perhaps.
To me, it's what the residents want that matters. That's what drives me. It's what the district wants.
And no, but if someone comes to you and they've got conflicting information, and you know, some people just go to mainstream media or to the government health minister or whatever and says, okay, this is what it is, or you go, oh, actually, that's, you know, doesn't ring true to me. I'm going to look at the other side and check both sides.
Having a council in it, they put it to the council. It can be discussed and get a outcome that hopefully get some agreement on. You know, people come with all sorts of different ideas.
You know, I'm thinking here, fluoride is an example of it. Is that everybody's saying 70 years of fluoride, it's good for you. But then you've got a few people saying, no, it's not good for you. So are you a sort of person that will go, oh, maybe they've got a point, maybe I should look into this?
Well, I'm waiting for Ian's documentation to arrive.
So I think
there's a few books you can read about the history of it. Once you realise it used to be on the poisons list for 200 years, and then got changed.
Still is. Still is on the poisons list. I mean, it's a closed mind versus an open mind.
Okay, so I can say I've experienced that. So during the COVID, post-COVID Freedom Village in Wellington, I went to Wellington to visit some friends and I went to Freedom Village. And it was nothing like you were told on TV. Nothing. I didn't go down there for that. I went down there to see what was going on. And if New Zealand could be like that all the time at that village, we should all be drinking from that fountain because it was amazing. Nothing like I saw on TV was that place. And I put a video up at the time just to say, hey, what are we doing? Why is a big building behind us not listening to our people out here on the grass? I got hated on. Not because I'm going, oh yeah, you're a protester or anything like that. It's because I'm questioning it. So I totally agree, but a lot of the time, it comes down to the articulation. How, if people come screaming with stuff, like John and I are getting hazed online at the moment for saying that we are anti-Māori, anti-racist, we're getting screamed at, so hateful stuff's being said. Come and talk to us. This, a lot of this is about communication. The same when I say about post-election, I want to sit down with Māori, I want to have constructive communication. All of this is about discussion.
And on that, so with the JMA, council sat there and watched everybody on social media go for each other. As a community, as a mayor, is that what you want, you know, for your community and for your district?
Yes, but
that is where council should have stepped in
yes.
and taken away comments, the conflict, and again provided better understanding.
So that conflict came out of the initial JMA being kept in the dark. And they pinned it up, and I spoke to this at that hearing on the 31st of July. And I said, you've created this for us. We can't afford to have a council leading us that's dividing us, because we're 42,000 people, we are one big family, and we can't forget that. And that's what I said to them. They, for some reason, they do not realise that this was all of their own making.
David was asleep at the wheel. At the wheel. He hadn't even read the bloody document.
No.
And that was evident. You know, we can sit here all night and debate that.
Okay, I think we'll wrap that up question-wise. These people have got things to do, and on that, I was just going to share that I think you guys have got something next week on the 2nd of September. You've got lots, but there is a COSI Club, we've put it onto the Taupo Freedom Notice Board. So the Taupo District Council elections is a public meeting on Tuesday, September the 2nd, next week, 6 p.m. at the COSI Club. And mayoral candidates and Taupo ward candidates will be there. Public questions welcome.
I don't know, from what I can gather,
We've heard it all tonight.
about 8 to 10.
Repeat it on Tuesday.
I don't have an RSVP like that. Yeah, I think John and I made that. Are you going? I think I made that chance too.
Oh, so not everybody's going.
Well, it's saying today, I don't know if everyone's going, but hey.
Yeah, no, not everyone's replied to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would like to suggest that we try and be there to support these people, because I went to the Rotary organised one at the Great Lakes Centre 3 years ago, and it was a travesty of justice, and it was absolutely rigged and ridiculous. So if we could be there to support these people, I feel like this is a nice public meeting that the Taupo Residents Group have organised, and we should.
Tristan is MC in that one.
I'm the MC at that one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. The suggestion by one of the councillors when I grizzled about it, whined, yelled, was that, get together and organise your own one then. Luckily, the Taupo Residents Group have done that. So, Kevin Taylor, it's in our hands to organise something rather than let the Rotary organise something. Okay, so thank you very much, the 5 of you, for coming. That was awesome. You answered all our questions. We are so proud you are standing up, and we've got choice.
On that,
I'm disappointed I can't vote for all of those 3 girls, only one of them.
We won't always please everybody, you know, we're not all going to have the same outlooks on things, but at the end of the day, we are all trying to do the same thing, and that is change. And for our betterment. Yeah.
Thank you.